Okay, so I've been getting some requests for a video on our statistics project for our video game and our carnival game. So I'm going to make a real quick one of these. So first I'm going to merge and center to give a title. So I already opened up my Office 365 and I created a new blank spreadsheet if you didn't already have one of those. So now we're going to merge and center a title and we're going to call it video game statistics. You can bold it and underline it. The next thing we're going to do, so theoretically you should have observations, but a lot of people were either not here or I have some people working from home. So we're going to simulate some gameplay basically. So, okay, we're going to pretend that we had 8 possible outcomes. Actually, let me put that over here. So possible outcomes 8. So what I need is I need some observations. So if you did this normally, you would have collected data using a Google form, and that would have been, you would have had that data. We don't have that, so we're going to create it. But what we want to do is we want to generate this randomly. We don't want to just put some numbers in. So I'm going to skip a few columns over here. So I want it in column A eventually, but I'm going to create the data, I'm going to create it in a different column. So I'm in column C. I'm going to use the function rand between. So I'm going to go equals rand between. Basically what that's going to do is it's going to generate random numbers between what I specify. So I have 8 possible outcomes. So I'm going to do from 1 to 8. So it's equals rand between 1, comma 8, close parentheses, and then enter. Now, every time I do something else, this number is going to change. And when we're using, like for our data, we just want numbers. So first we want more than 1, but I don't want to have to redo the formula every time. So I'm going to go down to the bottom right corner where it turns into a little plus. I'm going to drag that down. Let's see, I went to line 30. It doesn't really matter as long as you have like 20 to 40 or 10 plays. So, okay, so I have some numbers. But every time I do something else, these numbers are going to change because it's random number generator. So like if I put, so notice the first number is a 6. If I do something else, it changes again. Well, I don't want it to change when I'm doing stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this whole thing, like the ones I just created, and I'm going to go Control C to copy. And I'm going to come over here, but I'm not going to do Control V. What I want to do is I want to paste the values only. So to do that, if you have a mouse, you would do the right click. Otherwise, you use your 2 fingers at the same time. It gives you a right click. So that opens up like this. And you're going to go to this clipboard right here that says paste values. So it has a 1, 2, 3 on it. If I do that, now if I click into this, notice up here in the function bar, it has an actual number, not a function. Whereas over here, it has the function. So now I want to get rid of these. So I'm going to highlight all my ran between things. I'm going to do the right finger, the 2-finger right click thingy again. And I'm going to hit clear contents. If you're on a regular computer, you could just hit the delete button. But we've been working on Chromebooks and they don't have a delete button. Not sure why. To me, that's a very important button, but okay. They didn't ask me. So, okay. Now I have data. The next thing we want to do, because these were actual plays, we don't really want like mean, median, mode, the normal statistic stuff. We want to know how many people got each outcome. We want to know, like we had predictions for it. We want to know if our predictions were right. So, okay, I'm going to create a table. I'm also going to create a histogram. Okay, first I'm going to create a table. So I'm going to put outcome. I'm going to put count, predicted, and observed. Okay. So the outcome, I'm just going to number 1 through 8 because I had 8 outcomes. And it goes bold just because I want to. So here I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Oops. I'm going to grab these 3. I'm going to tiny plus, click and drag so that it'll fill in the rest of them for me and I don't have to number them. Now I want to count, but I want to count my data. The other thing I kind of like to do is I like to order it. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these real quick. And then see if I can move this down. Over here, Notice I'm on the home page. I'm not on any of the other tabs. I go over here to where it has A to Z. This is the sort and filter. I'm going to sort and filter it, sort ascending, just sort. I don't need it expanded or anything. Okay, there's that. So I want to count how many of each outcome there were, but I don't want to have to physically count them. So I'm going to use the count if function. So this is equals count if, open parentheses. I'm going to grab my data. And then I'm going to go comma. I'm going to show this. And then I want it to compare, I want it to count it if it's a 1. Before I hit enter, I'm going to go and I'm going to put $ around my data because I want it, I'm going to click and drag in a minute and I don't want it to change to some other, like I don't want it to drag my data down too. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So that was equals count if, open parentheses, select your data, comma, click on the outcome, put the $ around your data and then hit enter. Now I'm going to click and drag. And it'll count for the rest of them too. And this looks right? Because I have 3 1s. It says I have 3 1s. I have 3 2s. I have 3 2s. I have a bunch of 3s. So it counted them for me. Okay, on the predictions for the video game, we actually did some surveys in class. And so theoretically, you have a weighted tree. So you would put your predicted probabilities for these. I don't have that because this is a pretend one. So I'm just going to pretend they're all equally weighted. Are all equally likely. So that means since there are 8 outcomes, there's a 1 in 8 chance they'll get a 1, 1 in 8 chance they get outcome 2. So these are all just going to be, for me, 1 divided by 8. If you had 16 outcomes, it would be 1 divided by 16. Okay, I'm going to click and drag that all the way down. And then we have our observed. Well, before we can do our observed, I need the total. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to put total. Put an underline. Okay, so my total, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add up all of these. So I'm going to go equals sum. It's just going to tell me how many outcomes I had or how many observations. Okay, so I had 28. And then I'm aligning this to the right just so it's closer to this. You don't have to. For the observed then, so these were our predicted probabilities. What we want is our observed statistics, like what actually happened. So we predicted that 1 out of 8 outcomes would be outcome 1. So to do the observed, what we're going to do is we're going to go equals. We're going to click on the count, divide, which is a slash, click on the total. And then I'm going to put $ around my total because I want it to always divide by that same total as I go down. Otherwise, what happens when I click and drag, it'll go down, but then it'll take the one below this, it'll divide by 0 to give you an error message. Okay, so I have that. I'm going to take this and click and drag. Went too far that way, but that's okay. Ta-da. And then I'm going to underline that one. These have a lot of decimal places. Since this other one had 3 decimal places, I would probably decrease this to 3 just so they match. So I'm going over here just to the right of here and decrease decimal. And there we go. So notice like these predicted were slightly higher. This one was, the observed was higher than the predicted, but it's interesting. If you had actual observations, it would be more interesting because then you would see what people actually chose. Like if they had a choice between going down a really well-lit path or a super dark, scary forest with snarling coming from the bushes. In real life, probably they wouldn't choose that, but it'd be interesting to see if they chose it in the game. Okay, so that's mostly that. That's it for the table. What I need to do now is I need to put my histogram. So I'm going to grab my data all the way down, and then I'm going to go up here to the Insert tab. Over here, you have this selection like chart types, but I'm going to go to the arrow so I get the full list of chart types. And I want to scroll down. So we have like columns, bars, lines, pie graphs, all of those. I want down here in the other category, and I want this one right here that says histogram. Click on that. And then I want to change my histogram around a little bit. So it gave me 3 bars, but I have 8 outcomes. So I really want I want a bar per outcome. Also, I want to move this out of the way so it's not on top of stuff. Okay, so I need to correct my chart a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I also need to add a chart title. So I may put, if you double click on that or triple click on it, I'm going to put video game results or video game statistics, maybe video game results. And then what I want to do is I want to change the number of bars in the histogram because I need 8. So if you collapse that menu and go down to series 1, you have the fill color, so you could change that if you want to. But right here you say it has bins and it says auto. So what I want to do is I want to change that from auto to number of bins. And because I have 8 outcomes, I want to change that to 8. And so once I do that, eventually, there we go. Now I have 8 bars. So the other thing I like to do is give it a little bit of space, just because it sets it apart. Like these are easy. Like if you're not hovering over it, you don't sometimes see the little lines in between. Anyway, if you go to horizontal axis, the very first option is gap width. So I'm going to toggle that and slide it just slightly. And then, my computer's very slow. Eventually it'll separate out. There we go. It's very laggy today. So, okay, so it's separated out so you can see the bars a little better. You can scroll down on the horizontal axis and turn on the axis title. I would call it outcomes. You could give the y-axis a title. You could call it number of occurrences or number of players, something like that. So you could change all those. So that's totally up to you. But that's if you click off of it. So say we're just in here and you're like, oh man, I should have put a title. You just click on this chart, like double click, and these editing options will come back up again. So, okay, so that's that. So this was for the video game. We also had a carnival game, and you'd basically do the same thing. I would rename this video game instead of sheet 1. And then I would add a sheet for carnival game. For the carnival game, instead of having 8 outcomes, if you didn't have a physical carnival game, I would probably assume it's something like a ring toss where you had 5 tries and if you got 3 rings, you get a prize, that kind of thing. The only difference for the carnival game, so like let's say I did this. I'm going to just copy it over. Eventually. There we go. Okay, so let me call this carnival game. The only difference with the carnival game is we were concerned with prizes. So let's call this carnival game. Let's say I had 5 tries. So I'm gonna take these and delete them. Also, if this is a ring toss, you have 0 through 5, right? Instead, so okay. Ring toss. Tries, 3 rings, get. So, okay. So instead of 1 through 8, now I'm going to do 0 through 5. These 2 I can just go ahead and delete. And then delete and shift up. Okay. And then I'm going to add in, let's see here. Count. So down here at the bottom, I'm going to put some zeros so that I have some zeros in there. Okay. So now I have this. I'd probably need to upgrade this, but that's okay. I'm just going to delete this for now. Okay. The only difference between video game and my computer is so slow. The only difference between video game and carnival game is we need to add in the part that has the prizes. So what I would do is under here, I would go probability of getting a prize. Well, in order to get a prize, and this would be 1 out of 6 now instead. Let's see. And really for this, we did the Pascal's triangle, but just so that we have something to work with for right now. Okay, so the probability of getting a prize, to get a prize, you have to get 3 rings or more. So you could get a prize with 3 rings, 4 rings, or 5 rings. Wow, this is slow. So then the probability, the predicted probability of the prize would be this one, or, which is add. Remember, probability of A or B was probability of A plus probability of B. So any of those three would get you a prize. So if I do that, I have a 50-50 chance of getting a prize because, you know, 3 of them no prize, 3 of them prize. And then, so what I want to do is I want to take this, I'm going to do the right click, tiny click and drag to the right a little bit. And what it's going to do is it's going to add up these 3, which is odd, but apparently they also give us 0.5. So most of them, these would be slightly different. Let's say I had this. Okay, so if I did that, okay, good. My formula is working, just checking. But yeah, so what you would do is you want to look and see the probability, like the predicted probability of a prize. So we use this to decide how many prizes you need to buy if you're running a carnival game. And then you count up your observations and you say, okay, well, this many people got 3, this many people got 4, and this many people got 5. So my predicted probability of getting a prize was 50%, but in reality, 69.2% got a prize. So it's one of the reasons you always have extra prizes. But this is basically, so this is my carnival game tab. This is my video game tab. And that's basically what we did. And we had, for our project itself, we had a couple other tabs of the stuff we worked on in class, but the questions were mainly about the video game and carnival game. And that's it.